I don't know if I've ever publicly stated this or not, but I'm going to do it right here if I haven't. And if I have, then oh well. The Book of Three is better than The Lord of the Rings. The Chronicles of Prydain are better than The Lord of the Rings, or better than what The Lord of the Rings is, the single book in 3 volumes, whatever. It's a fact. You can argue with me if you want, but if you take this journey with me, if you've read Chronicles of Prydain, or even just the Book of Three, you'll know it to be true. Search your feelings, folks. Search your feelings. Anyway, the Chronicles of Prydain is better than Lord of the Rings. I love Lord of the Rings. I love The Hobbit. The Hobbit is also better than The Lord of the Rings. And Chronicles of Prydain is above The Hobbit as well. It's more focused. Here's the thing. It's a little bit unfair for me to say that it's better because it came decades later. And although not that many decades. And it gave the opportunity for Lloyd Alexander to grow up with Hobbit and Lord of the Rings and other fantasy series and think about the best way to write a story that's similar to, and yeah, sure, people can look at certain things in it and say, oh, it's a ripoff or it's copying or whatever, but he's doing it in such a different way that it's so fresh. It's not almost unrecognizable. It's that you don't care. It's like, yeah, it's kind of like Lord of the Rings, I guess, but I don't care because it's better. And in fact, in this episode, or in this chapter 10, Dyrnwyn, we actually get to see the formation of the Fellowship of the Pig, or the Fellowship of the Assistant Pig Keeper. I'm not sure which one flows better and which one I like better, but it's definitely one of those two is going on here. And it's a fact you can't really argue with, I think. If you're not aware of, or you're not reading the book, you're just finding this and checking it out, thank you, first of all. But second of all, let me real quick tell you, we've got a little monster man, like unto Golem, whose name is Gurgi, who is tagging along with the group. We've got a noble who's kind of a failed noble in Fflewddur Fflam, and he's imperfect, so he's kind of maybe our Boromir. Gwydion is dead. It's as if Aragorn had fallen in Lord of the Rings instead. Our Frodo, our simple guy, is Taran, and Eilonwy is, I'm not sure where to put Eilonwy. She's kind of like if Gollum and Sam had a baby or something like that. She's kind of the heart, the lodestar, I don't know what. She's like this guiding light for Taran, which is super cool. And, I'm talking about Lord of the Rings, the book, not the movies. So she's not an Arwen just because she's a girl. Maybe more like Sam and somebody else. Maybe throw a little Merry and Pippin and Gandalf. Yeah, maybe like Sam, Pippin, Gandalf kind of all rolled into one, although she's not a wizard. But she doesn't need to be. She still provides that guiding role. And she's got the chutzpah and the attitude and the spunk to make things fun and funny and engaging. And also, she carries like a deep wisdom and knowledge of secret things that Taran has no idea of, and the others also are ill-informed of, and she carries that information. So she does kind of perform that wizard-ish role, but she's also a bit of a scamp. She also provides some comedic moments, and not that Gandalf doesn't crack jokes, but still, it's different. And in this chapter, the four of them have decided, well, and Mellingar, but she's just, a horse. All the Mellingar stands are foaming at the mouth and rending their garments right now at me saying Mellingar is just a horse. But she is, she's a good horse. Anyway, but they've decided to stick together and not hold out. They've decided to stick together and take on both Gwydion's mission and Taran's mission, and I think it's pretty interesting how they're doing that. Anyway, so that's the formation of the Fellowship. And each of these four characters and the horse perform their distinct role, and they're coming from different places, and they feel like the different characters, the different races that are joined together among the 9 walkers, or the Fellowship, whatever. And I really do like that, and I think it's good on so many levels. It has a narrative, it has a very satisfying, it just feels very satisfying that like, oh, okay, cool. These guys are all going to go on an adventure together, and they have a quest now to journey to do this stuff. And they have, a dual quest, which is interesting. And the way that Eilonwy fights to be included in the group, the way that Fflewddur fights to kind of start the group by saying, I'm going to stay with you, and the way Gurgi just says that he's going to come along and help to stay away, to save his own skin, but also to help them however he can. It's a very natural way. Also, I love Taran's guilt and his desire to carry out Gwydion's mission because he got Gwydion killed when Spiral Castle was destroyed. And he got Gwydion captured and taken to Spiral Castle. So he feels responsible for that. He no longer wishes for adventure. He's, I guess, now kind of refusing the call to adventure, or maybe lamenting that he's taking it up, rather. If we want to talk about the hero's journey in this context, I'm not an expert on the hero's journey, so I might make references to it, but it's not really my strong suit, and probably I should refrain from that since I haven't studied it and I don't really intend to study it and bring it into a lot of my discussions, because I'm speaking more generally, more broadly. Is this a good story or not? Why? Why not? How is it bad? How is it good? So anyway, but he's now lamenting the fact that he wanted, when he was at Caer Dallben, to have all these great things that he's now having, and it's not so great. And I really do appreciate that. It's not a cynicism, and it's not a world weariness, but there is an element of truth, or like learning the harsh truth of life, the harsh truths of life in the Chronicles of Prydain, that I find beautiful. And to me, from my recollection, it's done effortlessly, or it feels effortless, and it's done without bogging down the audience in like depressing stories, basically. I also think the length of the books, being individual adventures or episodes that build upon each other, helps it to feel nicer. Kinky Dora. Helps it to feel nicer. So I'm driving through Kentucky right now, and I just passed, hopefully you can see it in the video behind me, there was a 3-headed golden dragon, and obviously, if it's not actually King Ghidorah, there was a T-Rex right there, you could just see. It's at least a reference to King Ghidorah, and I find that charming and wonderful. Hopefully I visit that sometime soon this summer. Anyway, it's a lot of fun. Anyway, getting back to it. It feels kind of effortless, and it feels very real without being bogged down, without being depressing. The smaller, isolated episodes of the shorter books, I don't remember, I think they're all like around 8 hours long, 5 to 8 hours long. I don't know the page count or the word count, rather. Off the top of my head, but I feel like they're shorter. 5 to 8 hours sounds about right for these books, which would be 50 to 80,000 words, if they are in fact those lengths. I believe it's the average is like 10,000 words an hour. Anyway, my point is, they do what Lord of the Rings did, but they do it better, and I'm really enjoying seeing the journey. And seeing the journeys, the parallel journeys that these characters are all on, and it's really enjoyable. And it's not entirely apparent what the arcs are, what the journeys are that these characters are all on right now. So Fflewddur, he has this issue with rearranging the facts. And Taliesin, the chief bard, understands that, had the insight, whatever, and gave him this particular harp that he values deeply and wants to protect and take care of, even though it betrays him when he is less than truthful, let's say. And that's interesting. So, like, is he going to become an honest man? Is he going to return to his kingdom? Is he going to become like some sort of great war leader? Because apparently he hasn't carved through, was it like walls of enemies or whatever? What's his journey? We don't know. Gurgi, can't tell yet. Is it maybe that he's been cursed to be a monster as opposed to a man, and he's going to be turned back into a man at the end of his journey? I don't know. There's not enough information on Gurgi yet, but he is loyal and faithful, and he's interested in crunchings and munchings. That's about all I got so far on Mr. Gurgi. And Eilonwy, this actually just hit me in my little, anyway, as I was thinking about it, what these characters' journeys are. Eilonwy was being raised by Achrin, and she has other relations who are not such great people, and she doesn't want to be sent back to them because she thinks they're bad, and she doesn't want to be bad like them, and she kind of was being raised to turn into an evil sorceress, and she mentions that in the olden times, which is funny because this is very long ago for us, but in the olden times for them, her people, the women were all sword maidens that fought alongside the men, which is really cool. And actually, I found this out, I think because of Pendragon Cycle, that the Irish women actually used to go into battle as well. They would wear, I think they wore at some point like these battle pants, like plaid battle pants, and they would go with their swords and maybe shields too, and they would fight, and it's crazy, and it's cool because at some point, Queen Guinevere, Arthur's wife, she ends up, I don't remember if she actually ends up, I think she ends up fighting a little bit in one of the books, and it's super cool, because you get to learn about that, and then you see, oh, this woman is proof of that, and it's really neat. Anyway, so obviously, this is not obvious. It's not obvious. Let me clarify. This is Welsh with all the Wales is, I think, very far north, and I believe Ireland is to the south. I'm really terrible at geography, but I think that's true. But I'm saying it's not that Eilonwy is Welsh, but that I'm sorry, Eilonwy is Welsh. She's from Welsh. This is a Welsh story. I'm saying it's not that she's Irish, but there definitely could have been Welsh, sword women's sword maidens as well that I'm just unaware of. Like I know about the little bit of the history of the Irish women. But anyway, she has the potential to become an evil queen, an evil witch, evil sorceress, whatever, like her Aunt Achrin, who she enjoys fighting, defies and runs around and does things that her aunt wouldn't like. So if defying evil doesn't make you good necessarily, it could just be that she's evil, but in with a different bent or a different kind of evil. So I find that to be interesting. And Taran, he's this assistant pit keeper right now. He's taking on the lead position of the exposition, like the Aragorn role, Aragorn role, like I said before. Also the Frodo role, kind of, in that hero's journey. Well, I didn't even think Tolkien used the hero's journey. Anyway, sorry, I must stop referring to the hero's journey when I'm ill-equipped to do that. Excuse me. But he's taking on that lead role. So, will he become a war leader? Is that his destiny? Is that what he's going towards? I don't know. But it's interesting to see that they're in situations where they're going to be dealing with battles and adventure and, running from enemies, fighting enemies, whatever, and see how this, misfit group of a fellowship will do that. Here's the thing, though. I'm interested in each of their individual stories. It helps that they're a smaller cast. The 9 Walkers of Rivendell or whatever were a much larger cast. And Bilbo and his 13 dwarf associates with their crazy silly names, and their scant characterization, they didn't do it for me. And Taran and his crew, the Fellowship of the Pig, or the Fellowship of the Assistant Pit Keeper, are doing it for me. I'm very much invested in each of their individual stories and where they're going, and learning more about their histories and their backstories, because we got an inkling of what each of them is about, and I'd like to know more. And Taran is a complete mystery so far. So far. Anyway, but yeah, this is just it's a really exciting setup for a story. And I feel kind of, in a way I feel duped, and in a way I feel very good about this. This is kind of like the L. Frank Baum structure of a story, where it's get your characters into something, get them into something else, get them into something else, get them into something else, the end. And also kind of reminds me of, feels like with that, add escalation onto that, the Lester Pope formula, which he used for the Bronze Man. Doc Savage. And Doc Savage is the Bronze Man. He was Lester Dent's character, and he used this Pope formula for him. And his 6,000 word short stories, his 60,000 word Pope novels, They're divided basically into quarters, and each quarter you did something different, and they built upon each other. And I very much feel like that's the formula, or something like the formula Baum used. There's like a 3/4 way through. There's a big victory, and then the last quarter is a really cool like showcase of all your characters at their peak together, which is a lot of fun. It's like I refer to it as a big. I've talked about it both in talking about the books and also talking about the structure of the books with my daughter, who's 14. She's a burgeoning author. I call it the Victory March. So anyway, what's my point? My point is that we kind of have now at 10 chapters in. I don't know if we're actually at the quarter mark or the third mark or whatever, but it feels like we have this crew assembled. We have this. We've been introduced to the dangers of the world, to some of the heroes of the world, to some of the good forces of the world, and also we've assembled a cast and a crew who will go through the rest of this adventure together. And it feels like this was a great opening, like quarter for them, or opening third for them to assemble into a team and take on a mission. And now they're about to start on their journey, and it feels really satisfying. They did it in less page count, did it in less word count, did it with a smaller cast of characters, and I care more deeply about them. Sam to me is like a very flat character. Frodo has a lot more characterization to him. It's been a long time since I've listened to Lord of the Rings, though, so I won't judge very harshly now. But I will say, just overall, my impression after I finished Prydain and, Book of 3 on its own, I think, originally, I thought, oh, this is better. This is better. This is really interesting. Actually, I think I waited to finish the whole series before I made my judgment of, I think this is actually better than Lord of the Rings. But I would want to compare them a little more closely, but not right now. Lord of the Rings is a lot to get through, so we'll, and that's the thing. It feels like it's a lot to get through, versus Prydain, I feel like, I could do that. I could listen to the Prydain Chronicles, no problem. But Lord of the Rings is like, it's just, I gotta push myself. I gotta be ready for this. I gotta concentrate and focus and be here. And it isn't that one is high art, or one's highbrow and one's lowbrow. Lord of the Rings highbrow, Prydain lowbrow. That's not what it is. It's just like the presentation and the style associated with them is so different that one is just more easily palatable. It's still nutritious. It's not like you're eating junk food. It's still the same great thing, but it's presented in such a way that I think it is superior in its presentation and in its overall content. And I think I do stand by that. Lord of the Rings and Tolkien's Legendarium in general casts a very long shadow, though, and I think that has overshadowed the Chronicles of Prydain, and I think that's too bad. I don't feel foolish or silly or wrong for talking about those two, like the two series in comparison to each other so much here, as opposed to talking about the main content of Chapter 10, because Chapter 10 is a linchpin chapter that has a lot of deeper stuff that I don't remember. I'm not going to say it all pays off later in this book or in the other books or in the series at all. But it has a lot of stuff that's tying everything together and like really setting us up in this world. So I feel like the status quo changes that it's bringing and the new normal that it's setting up for the book and the trajectory that it's setting for the rest of the book and the series, you could say too, afford me the ability to freely talk about things in this broader perspective while still feeling like I've touched on the important things from this chapter. However, this is not an exhaustive chapter review, breakdown, or examination at all, and it won't be. And that's not what I'm going to do. I'm actually going to call it here because I feel like I've said enough and been a lot of interruptions, and I want to enjoy doing these and not turn it into a slog for myself or something unbearable that I have to do in a certain way. I'm freeing myself up to do more short videos or maybe some text posts about some of the cool stuff going on in Chapter 10, because there's some really neat things that I want to talk about more in depth, but not at the moment. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. Check out my other reviews of the Chronicles of Prydain. And also, I am currently, it's April. I don't know what day it is. I think it's April 22nd, April 23rd. I just got the cover art from my brother-in-law, the line art for my book, Mothwing Mayhem, which features magical bugs battling monsters. They protect children from the monsters who would prey upon them. And a certain batch of monsters, a bunch of Mockwings, find out where they live and go to their fort to kill them all. And the Growbugs want that to not happen. They come up with a plan, and it turns out that 2 untested and untried Growbugs are going to try to save their master, even though they should be running and hiding. And they're going to battle a Mockwing, and if they defeat it, great. But bad news, there's still a whole bunch of other Mockwings who could kill them, and we got to see how they get through all of that. And anyway, excuse me. I think it's a great book. I think it's a lot of fun. I think it's a great first debut middle grade novel. It's about 25,000 words, which I think is a respectable length. And it's a lot of fun. It's a quick read. A lot of cool things happen there. It's setting up a world, not a trilogy, but a world full of world building. And I have ideas already for the sequels that I have an overall story I want to do, but that overall arc for characters I want to pair with some really cool, fun adventures that are going to show us different, unique aspects of the Growbug world. And anyway, that's Mockwing Mayhem. You can find out more by checking out the links in the description, going to mjwingers.com. You can sign up for my email list to get a free short story and some other bonuses about the Mockwing world, as well as a notice when it's going to be live, when you can buy it. I'm planning on recording the audiobook myself and releasing that, as well as the digital ebook version and the paperback all on the same day, summer 2025. So it's coming soon. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you check it out. And again, I hope you enjoyed this review, and I will continue doing chapter by chapter reviews of the Book of 3, as well as the rest of the Chronicles of Prydain. And I'm also doing, excuse me, I'm also doing reviews of books that are like Mockwing Mayhem. What does that mean? It means books that, if you look at what makes up Mockwing Mayhem, and you distill it down and you say, okay, there are other popular books out right now, or that came out 10, 20 years ago, whatever, that are popular fantasy books for middle grade audience, and you could say they compare. Let's check them out, and I'm going to read them and review them. And I have my Wings of Fire review, which I think is already out by the time that this review goes live. So I hope you check that out already. If you haven't, go back. I read book 1 of Wings of Fire, which is called The Dragonet Prophecy, and you can hear my full thoughts on the book there. I would very much appreciate you checking that out. And if you're a fan of Wings of Fire, I think you'll like Mockwing Mayhem a lot. If you're a fan of Chronicles of Prydain, I think there's a good chance you'll like it a lot, because it's a fantasy adventure story with depth and cool stuff going on with characters. Very much, it's not a comparison like how Lord of the Rings and Prydain Chronicles are a comparison to each other, but it's a comparison in that it's fantasy with neat world building and characters engaging in interesting character development, kind of deep stories. Themes are being explored, and there's some cool action as well. So anyway, I hope you check that out. Until next time, folks, take care, be well, and keep reading.